Congratulations. What an exciting time for you at the end of 4 years, possibly longer, of fairly intense study. You may have got your very first class. You may know about this already, or you may just be excited to think about what's coming up for you next year. So what comes next? Relationships. I absolutely cannot highlight enough the importance of relationships. Building those relationships is going to start on the very first day, and it's going to be the cornerstone to your teaching career. So where do you start with building those relationships? Well, you've got to think about students and staff, and then obviously later on you'll have families as well. But the very first thing is the importance of getting to know your class. Your students aren't going to be in a position to learn if they haven't built a connection, or if they don't feel the connection that you are building with them. So get to know them. Those first couple of days, a week maybe, doing those getting to know you games is always a great idea, but it has to be authentic. They have to know that you are actually interested in them, not just a tick a box style thing. So have a think about ways that you can discover students' likes and dislikes. Those friendships are going to be key as well. Thinking about who in the class is part of a friendship group, but also who has been separated maybe from their best friend from the class, from the previous year's class, because that is going to impact those first couple of days. If you have students who are really close friends, you may have to think about what you're going to do with your classroom organisation, because maybe they'll be too busy talking to each other rather than the learning and the tasks that you want them to do. But likewise, if they've been separated, their emotional state might need a little bit of extra nurturing so that they can become more familiar with the other students that are in their class. Families. Again, getting to know the families of your students. Do they have a large family? Do they have siblings? Do they live with mum and dad? Do they live with grandparents? Are their families together? Are they separated? All of those sorts of things. Because once you know their families, their family life, you're going to have a better understanding of what it is that the students are coming to school with. For example, if you know that one of your students has divorced parents and they spend 1 week with mum, 1 week with dad, there are going to be times when things will get forgotten, notes won't be signed. It's just a basic fact of life, and that can be very distressing to some children. So having a think about the sorts of things you can do to negate that distress, and have a think about what you can do to support families so that the child is happy and content. And then the child's strengths, student strengths. Very often we do have that idea of, well, this student needs to learn this and this student needs to focus on that. But having a think really carefully about what strengths does the student present with, and what can you do to build on that strength, to build that connection. I know that the classes where I've built the greatest connections have been because I've been able to just introduce a basic comment, a question for a student. If they've said, "Oh, Miss, I made it to the cricket grand final," and then remembering on Monday, how did you go? How did your team go? Or if someone says, "I'm having a sleepover for the first time," and remembering those things, students know if you are truly interested in them, And that is what they are looking for. They are looking to build that connection. They are looking to connect with you. And the more connections that you can make with them, the greater the community in your classroom is going to be, the more cohesive your classroom culture is going to be. So I can't emphasize enough just how important it is to spend time building those authentic relationships with your students. And there's always going to be a couple of students who it takes longer to get to know. They may be what we have traditionally called shy. They may be distrustful. So it's spending the time and putting in the commitment to build those relationships with your students. But you also have to get to know your teams. Depending on the size of your school, this can take you a really long time. Other times, if it's a small school, you're going to get to know them super quickly. But you'll have your stage team if you're working in stages, or you'll have your grade team. Again, if you're working in a smaller school, you might just have a whole school team. So learning about the people that you're working alongside, learning about what they're really interested in, and that helps you to know who to go to. So, for example, one of your team may have a very sincere interest in maths or a passion for maths, and that you might learn that that's the person you go to if you have a question about that. Someone else might have a real interest in history or in literature. So learning about who is passionate and interested in what amongst your staff team is going to be really useful. Likewise, your executive team. They're the people who are going to lead you, lead the school. Their strategic directions comes directly from the executive team. So understanding what they stand for and the culture that is within the school is going to be really important for you. I've just realised I've used the term RFF here, and some states might not use the same term, but this is the release from face-to-face team, or the teachers that teach your class when you are having your release time, your off-class time. Now, I always find these teachers to be a wealth of knowledge about my students. They see, in most cases, they see almost every student in the school. They are seeing them outside of the classroom, outside of the normal environment. So they are going to have insights into your students and how they interact. You might be surprised to find that a student who's terribly quiet in your classroom excels in the music classroom, or a student who may be struggling with some academic learning is in fact an absolutely incredible athlete. So this comes back to getting to know your students, because they will be able to offer you different insights. The office and administration team cannot be underestimated. They are a support. They are often the people that will have the contact with families even before you do. So they will be able to help you out with that, and basically just all of that beautiful admin that we do need to do as teachers. So that's the first place to start. Those relationships, again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to build those relationships. It's an old saying, which I think is absolutely valid. You have to attend to Maslow. You may have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Attend to Maslow before you can bloom. Students and adults need to feel safe, secure, and connected before they're going to be able to put that mental load into their learning. Curriculum. Please, please, please know your syllabus. Please always go back to your syllabus. That is your core business, and it is still extraordinary how many people will, how many teachers will create a unit of work or will say, well, I know I need to do this, but they will not necessarily know exactly where to find that in the syllabus. Have your syllabus bookmarked on your laptop. Always go back to it every single day when you're getting ready to teach. Make sure that you know exactly what it is that is the intention of your teaching, what you intend for your students to learn. Programs, there's going to be a few different things going on here. Again, it will depend on your school. You may find that a school has created, developed, planned programs that are consistent across teams. You may not get a great deal of say in what that program might look like, but you will always have a say in what it looks like in your classroom. So it's going to be so important that you adapt and refine the programs to suit the needs of those students who are actually right there in front of you every day. The programs are only going to work if you are considering how it's going to impact your teaching and the learning of your students. Support is always available through your system, whether it's an independent system, a Catholic system, or a government system. There will always be support available in regards to curriculum. Again, go back to your documents because there's a wide range of support materials available that will match your curriculum. Classroom management. I bet everybody's enjoyed this aspect of their professional experience. Number one, build those relationships. Again, if students believe that you care for them, that you are interested in their lives, in them as individuals, they are more likely to build that respect and connect with you. Really spend time, invest time in clarifying your expectations. Students can't do anything if they don't know what is expected of them. You will have looked at learning intentions, success criteria with regards to learning, but the expectations of behaviour are just as important. Build those routines, spend time. Instructional routines are critical, but so are behaviour routines. Being consistent so that students know exactly where they stand with you. They know what you expect. They know what to do next. It removes that cognitive load where they're not guessing, they're not thinking, oh, I wonder what I'm supposed to do here, or I wonder what is going on around me. If you've built those routines and you're really consistent, it will definitely decrease the occurrence of behaviour issues. It's really important to ask for help if you need it. Nobody expects an early career teacher to have all the answers. And I know it can be scary. I know that sometimes an early career teacher might think, well, I'm expected to know what to do. But that expectation isn't real. Early career teachers are expected to be developing classroom management techniques as much as they are developing curriculum and teaching and learning programs. So ask for help. Find that trusted other that you think is going to be able to help you. It might be your assistant principal. It might be a mentor. It could be your principal. There are a variety of people who will be there to help, and everybody would much rather that you ask for help and provide you with that help than have to solve a bigger problem down the line. I've got here observe, and that just means observe those around you. Have a look, see what other people are doing. And this is as simple as morning routines. You know, does your school have lines and then students walk together to classrooms? Watch what other people do. Find someone who you feel is on the same wavelength as you and observe what it is that they do. What are they saying? How are they behaving? Do they have visual cues for their students? You know, I always laugh at people sitting in assemblies and teachers going, you know, pointing at the stage because they're all looking behind them instead of looking to the front. So observing the sorts of visual cues that teachers give students is another important thing. If you haven't already, take a look at various documents. Aero have a couple on classroom management, and CC, who are the Centre for Education, Statistics and Evaluation, have some fantastic documentation on building classroom routines and on classroom management. It is something that you will have to consider every single year, no matter how experienced you become, because every year you get a new cohort. And you may think, oh, I've had such a great year. I built beautiful relationships with my class last year. And we did really well. We connected so beautifully. The learning was fantastic. And then next year, you get students who may be a little bit more tricky, or the chemistry between your cohort means that you have to try a different approach. So it isn't something that you should expect to be developed and over and done with in your first year. It is something that you will have to continually, that will continually evolve over time, because your students are going to be different every year. So where can you go for help? I think sometimes it's really important that we understand there are all these places we can go. Your team leader is really important. So you will have a direct line to somebody, whether it's a grade coordinator, again, an assistant principal, a deputy principal. There may be someone in your school who is responsible for the early career teachers, and that is the person who you could go and speak to. But your colleagues are a wealth of knowledge. They have a wealth of knowledge. They are available for you. Vast majority of people will give up huge amounts of time to support you wherever needed. There are professional organisations such as PETAA. We are more than happy to help with any questions that you have, English related usually, but we're also happy to help with other aspects. You may have a union that has different levels of support as well. Social media. I put this in here because I think it's really important to understand that you can find a lot of information on social media, but we need to view it very critically. We can't just say, oh, I noticed that this teacher posted this idea, I'm going to do that. You have to stop and think about, is that going to work for your students? Because your students are not the same as the students in the other teacher's classroom. So there are a variety of different social media groups. There are a few content creators who are incredibly generous, sharing ideas, activities. All of those things can be really useful, but please, please look at them critically and don't just think, oh, well, I'm going to do that today. Oh, it didn't work. I better try something else tomorrow. That's not going to have that consistency for your students, and you're going to end up with a great deal many more problems. So one of those areas of support that is available to you is the PETAA Year of Text, as well as curriculum units. Now, I've chosen to pop this one here simply because whatever grade you have, you can pick up a year of text, so say year 3, pick up the PETAA year 3 year of text, and you will know that you have covered every single English outcome for the year. You will have that confidence to know that nothing's been left out. We have a huge number of curriculum units available and more coming all the time. But I'd like to suggest to you that you read as many texts as possible from your school library, go to a bookshop, pick up things that may look like they might appeal to you or to your students, because the more text you are familiar with, the greater the chances are that you're going to find the right book for the right student or for the right purpose. And remember that using quality, authentic texts such as the ones that you might be able to see there on the screen are going to support your teaching of history, of geography, of science, and it gives students something to connect to. I can't emphasize that enough either, that if you are aware and familiar of a huge variety of texts, it's going to really support your teaching practice. Your teacher librarian, if you are lucky enough to have one, should be your first port of call there. You might be able to go and say to them, oh, I've got year 2, I want to have some lessons on respectful relationships while I'm building my class culture. What do you have? What do you suggest? You can also come to PETAA and we will be able to, you'll find a lot on the website, but we will also be able to support you in those sorts of areas too. Don't forget that this term we have a free member webinar, and it is on using a mentor text to write a curriculum unit. So it will take you through the steps that you need to consider if you have chosen a text and now you want to move on and create your own curriculum unit. So in light of that, I've had a bit of a think about some things that might set you up for the beginning of the year next year, or as you move into your class, your full-time class. Unpacking the Science of Reading is a beautiful, shortish 2-hour course based on the work of Professor Timothy Shanahan, and it will give you that background knowledge and understanding of the science of reading, which is so influential and important in our understanding of how we teach reading today. Likewise, text fluency and reading comprehension is another shortish course, again, based on the work of Professor Timothy Shanahan. And fluency is a very important part of the teaching of reading. It is being emphasised in VIC 2.0 curriculum. It has its own outcome in New South Wales, and it's also an important part of Australian curriculum. We have a fantastic course called Small Group Targeted Reading Instruction that was created by Karen Rogers, and it really emphasises the importance of making sure that your grouping is based on particular need, not just a set and forget reading group. So that idea of fluidity, where you have an area of focus and you are really targeting the reading instruction for that group of children. If you are concerned about teaching writing, you know exactly how do you go about it. We have a slightly longer course here called Explicitly Teaching the Process of Writing, but again, it will take you through step by step how you can do that. And then a fantastic course here on differentiation, because our classrooms are full of students of varying levels. Through your professional experience, you've probably noticed that you have this incredible range of ability that needs to be planned for, very intentionally planned for, and that course will assist you in that regard. One of the things that you might like to spend some time with, spend some time on over the next few weeks, while you still have your pre-service teacher membership, are our on-demand webinars. So they are free. The courses that in the previous slide are pay for access, but we do have a series of on-demand webinars that deal with a variety of topics. You can follow the link there. It's being popped in the chat. Sorry, I should have also said the links for the courses are also in the chat. But if you go to the member portal, then to teaching resources, and by type, you can choose webinars. Then you can choose between what's coming up, and we actually have 2 more coming up this year, or you can choose on demand and look back at previous webinars. Just for your information, we have one with Curly Saunders, an incredible author who has a brand new picture book out at the moment. So she is coming, I think, next week or the week after. We also have Megan Edwards, our CEO, talking about what's coming, what's new and what's coming, and that webinar will be next week. So that brings us to the end. I really, really want to let you know that I'm always happy to communicate with members. If you have questions, if you're looking for support, if you're not quite sure of professional learning that might suit your particular needs, if you're looking for a text for a specific purpose, it's an area of passion for me, so I'm very happy to always communicate that. I really want to encourage you, where possible, to find out, does your school have a PETAA membership? And if they don't, maybe you could encourage them to sign up. Or if they're not able to do that, we do have very reasonably priced individual memberships. Being a member of a professional organisation is a really important part of your work experience. It helps you to have an understanding of what's going on around you, and helps you stay current with your knowledge and understanding of best practice in this particular area.